So Sakura is back in Boruto, and she's doing, well, kind of what she used to do, but now in the future. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, Sakura's back, and she's not a rogue ninja, or even outside of Konoha. Well, she's still just kind of running the hospital. And you know what? That makes a fair amount of sense. Not every single explanation for why somebody hasn't been shown on screen has to be that their husband was labeled as a rogue ninja, and so they decided to abandon the village and go look for him. That would have been a lot of fun, but she does have a daughter who still lives in the village, so her sticking around makes a fair amount of sense. However, it is important to note that of all of the members of Team 7, Sakura is the first that we've seen in any real ability to move their body about since the firing of omnipotence. And as Sakura holds on to an equal-ish amount of power to Naruto and Sasuke, her being reintroduced into the story is pretty massive news. But Nick, what are you even talking about? You just started rambling about Sakura still working at the hospital, and genuinely, that's fair. See, because for those of you who haven't seen yet, Boruto did the thing where they leaked one panel of their own chapter. It's not even really a leak, it's the Boruto official page releasing it. And in this one-page teaser that they decided to release, they showed Inojin laid up in a hospital bed with Sakura feeling at what used to be his wound. And while usually I don't make entire videos dedicated to these one-page teaser sections, Sakura being re-entered back into the story, even though it is at a healing capacity at the hospital, and Ino and Team 10 all being grouped around Inojin in the hospital, could lead to a couple of very interesting plot progressions. In fact, it was I who said in a video just a couple of days ago that Ino and Team 10 would find themselves together surrounding Inojin real soon, and this would serve as an active place to grow dissent against Konoha, or more specifically, against Kawaki. So of course I get it correct when I say that Ino and Team 10 are going to be shown huddled around Inojin in the next chapter, but I don't get it correct when I say that Sakura is now a rogue ninja hunting down Sasuke. But ladies and gentlemen, if you aim for the stars, if you miss, you'll at least land on the moon. And apparently our moon is a mother going to visit her ailing child. But even though this development doesn't sound like that huge of a development, when we consider the role that Ino plays in Konoha and the fact that she knows that Boruto is a good guy, Ino now having a space to talk to Team 10 about what's going down with the Shinju and Himawari could mean as soon as the next chapter, we might see not only Himawari, but also Team 10 coming to the side of Boruto. And considering the fact that this conversation is going to happen in front of Sakura, there's also a possibility that Sakura could finally be swayed by the opinions and wants of her daughter, because Sakura re-entering the story raises a couple of very logistical questions, like, hey, your husband abandoned you for Boruto, and your daughter keeps talking about how innocent Boruto is. How do you feel on the matter? And today, I'm trying to figure out exactly how she does feel on that matter, because today we're talking Sakura joins Team Boruto. But before we get to chatting on anything, guys, please, for me, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that noti bell. Or if you want to hear me talk about other anime and manga, go ahead and follow my other channel, The Weeb Commander, where instead of talking about Naruto and Boruto, I talk all other anime and manga. Or if you want to see me try to bring real-life challenges to the anime world, go ahead and follow my brand new channel that I created with Stephen He, Chris Barnett, and Danny Mata called Anime IRL. Or if you just want to hear me talk anime and manga, go ahead and follow my anime podcast, Otaku's Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime and manga this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So, we got 1 out of 40 pages of Chapter 14 of Boruto. Huge news! And while in actuality, whenever the Boruto official account decides to release one of the pages from the chapter, I read it and I go, I was kind of right. Today, I did, well, exactly that, but also went, oh my god, Sakura. Or at least somebody who kind of looks like Sakura. I don't like how Ikimoto draws her. Her face is is it too short? Is that what it is? But anyways, with the release of this page, not only were we shown that Sakura is still very much around in Konoha, but she's still fulfilling the same role she fulfilled prior to the firing of omnipotence. And she's now, because of Inojin, interacting with a very interesting cast of characters. But before we get to diving into theories based off this one page, let's go over what's going on this one page. So the page opens with a pair of hands using healing ninjutsu on Inojin's chest, and it's revealed in the next panel that that pair of hands belongs to Sakura. Now, as Sakura is trying to heal Inojin's chest, she says out loud, "This is amazing. I can hardly believe that he was stabbed through the chest. It's almost completely healed," implying to us that Himawari's ability to heal other people is almost absolute and immediate. See, because while Himawari believed that they had to get Inojin to a hospital as soon as possible, she did effectively mend a cannonball-sized wound to his chest. And this isn't all that she's healed. She's healed her own leg. She's healed Sarada's arm, which makes it seem as though Himawari's overabundance of chakra that she's got now by being the Jinchuriki of Kurama has given her access to the Sun Seal hacks that her father had when he was Ninja Jesus for a half hour. Chochu then kicks in and asks Sakura a question, well then, is he fine? At which point Shikamaru kicks in and says he's not responding at all. Ino then follows this up by asking, will he come too? Now to this point that Sakura says something that could have been poorly translated or is just kind of confusing. She says the flow of chakra inside of his body has been halted, but it's okay if I ease the flow. Now I'm assuming this is just the leaks being poorly translated, and basically what Sakura is saying here is that in the place of where his wound was, his chakra has stopped flowing. Now it's obviously not opportune based off the fact that chakra flows and dwells in the stomach, and that's exactly where Inojin was stabbed. Sakura, with her immense experience as a medical ninjutsu specialist, is flowing Inojin's chakra through his body for him. Sakura then kind of solidifies this point by saying he'll probably wake up soon. You did the right thing bringing him here. And it's at this point that we cut to Himawari, who just says, good. Now, for those of you at home saying, okay, that's not a whole lot of information, how are you gonna make a whole video out of that? Genuinely, great question. The most important things happening in this page and all these panels isn't the fact that Inojin is being healed, or even that Himawari has the ability to heal. We kind of already knew that Himawari had the ability to heal. Apparently she doesn't have the ability to heal a chakra network, but she has the ability to heal the flesh and blood. As Sakura has fantastic chakra control and is the forefront medical ninjutsu specialist in probably the entirety of the world, she can handle the chakra flow aspect. The important takeaway from all of this is that Sakura and Ino are hanging out with Team 10. And why is that important, you ask? Well, because Team 10 has had a really weird relationship with Boruto ever since the firing of Omnipotence. And that relationship has only gotten exponentially weirder after Himawari decided to team up with the crew. See, it's already been revealed multiple times that Team 10 was heavily affected by Omnipotence. Whether it was them being the ones that chased Boruto down and Shikadai being the one to hold Boruto with the Shadow Possession Jutsu after the firing of Omnipotence in part 1 of Boruto, or the conversation that Team 10 was having with Himawari at the beginning of part 2 of Boruto, where Himawari said that she didn't believe that Boruto was a bad guy, which got a pretty serious round of scowls from Team 10. Now, this is either because Himawari wasn't affected by Omnipotence or wouldn't believe that Kawaki would kill Naruto. And however, for either reason, Himawari has some faith in Boruto. Some faith that the rest of Team 10 doesn't appear to have. Now, this places Team 10 in a very interesting situation, because the majority of the important people inside of Konoha believe that Boruto is innocent. Whether that's Shikamaru, Sarada, Sumire, maybe Amado, and Himawari, really the only people who believe that Boruto may be guilty of the crimes that were implanted in their brains by Omnipotence are Konohamaru and Team 10. And like, maybe Damon, but like probably not Damon. If the Charm Shinjutsu doesn't work on Damon, then maybe Omnipotence doesn't work on him either, because the Charm Shinjutsu is a byproduct of Omnipotence. Regardless, really when it boils down to it, there's only like 4 people left who believe that Boruto's a bad guy, and that's Team 10 minus Himawari and Konohamaru. However, as it currently stands, Team 10 should fully understand that Boruto saved Himawari. That the only reason that Himawari was able to cover the real escape of Team 10 is because Boruto covered her escape. And this should be information that Himawari is privy to, even though she was unconscious when Boruto snagged her up. As everybody saw Boruto flash into the village holding Himawari, place her down, and then try to fight Hidari. And thus Himawari's suspicions should be at least a little bit confirmed that Boruto may not be as bad guy as everybody says he is. When it ties in the fact that Team 10 was also in the front line of the battle against Code and all of his claw grimes, and they saw that Boruto was actively trying to fight against those claw grimes and Code, there certainly should be enough evidence for somebody as intelligent as Shikadai, who has no real reason to be any less intelligent than Shikamaru, to not start piecing together a couple of key facts here and start thinking, oh wait, maybe Boruto isn't as bad as I think he is. However, even if Shikadai isn't able to piece together that very, very simple puzzle, he is in one of the most opportune situations of all time to do exactly that. See, because here's the thing, like we established in the last video, which you guys didn't really like, which I thought was interesting, maybe because Ino was in the title and who cares about Ino. Ino saves Boruto. I talked about how Ino's role in Konoha as the extractor of all information of prisoners is going to place her in a very interesting and somewhat precarious situation moving forward in Two Blue Vortex. See, pretty much everybody inside the confines of Konoha should want Boruto's memories to be read. Whether they believe he's worked with Code or not, Boruto has been gone for 3 years and nobody knows what he's been up to. Ties into the fact that his relationship with Code seems perplexing, that he has more information on the Shinju than everybody else, that he showed up when Code showed up in Konoha and battled against the Claw Grimes. Boruto, to the majority of the people in Konoha, is a walking question mark, a treasure chest of information that they simply don't have access to. And thus gaining access to all of this information should be the #1 priority of Konoha, as they have no ideas about the motivations of Code, the Shinju, or how either of them operate. And while they could call somebody like Ibiki in, Ibiki is good at inflicting enough pain that people give up whatever information that he wants them to. However, ever since the rise of the Yamanaka clan and their ability to use something known as psycho mind transmission, which allows them to probe into the memories of whoever's skull they're holding, Ino has become the head of the interrogation and torture department, and therefore she's responsible for getting all the information out of prisoners that needs to be found out. And therefore, if hypothetically Ino was to dive into the memories of Boruto, she would see that omnipotence created a lie, that Boruto and Kawaki's positions had been swapped, which would be enough to break her out of omnipotence if observing the conversation between Boruto and Shikamaru wasn't enough already. See, because here's the thing, Ino's already been operating as the private cell phone line between Shikamaru and Boruto, hearing all of the somewhat traitorous conversations between Shikamaru and Boruto as Shikamaru protected Boruto from the likes of Kawaki. And therefore, if Ino wasn't already Team Boruto after learning everything that she could glean from Shikamaru and Boruto's conversations, after she dives into Boruto's memories, she most definitely will be. And now, with the leaking of this page, we see that Ino is in the same room as Team 10. Now, the only question to really wonder about here is at what point in the chapter does this page take place? Now, more likely than not, this page happens pretty early in the chapter. I can't imagine that Ino would be incentivized to go interrogate Boruto if she knew that her son was in the hospital. And therefore, more likely than not, it's not until after she realizes that her son's gonna be alright that she's willing to leave said hospital and go interrogate Boruto. However, at the same time, you could very much put the shoe on the other foot. And you could make the argument that the first thing that she would want to do is interrogate Boruto to understand if he was involved in possibly the injuring of Inojin, or if he had any information that would help them understand what happened to Inojin, how he was healed, and what it had to do with the Shinju. See, because if I heard that my son became a tree ornament on the world's worst Christmas tree by the means of a Shinju, I'd probably want to know about as much about the Shinju as I possibly could, and you have somebody in capacity who may be a well of information in that capacity. But the order in which Ino decides to visit Inojin or interrogate Boruto doesn't necessarily matter because of what we established earlier. The fact that she should be snapped out of omnipotence already. Her seeing Boruto's memories would only act as a way for her to confirm the suspicions that the conversation between Shikamaru and Boruto planted inside of her head. And I genuinely find it hard to believe that a conversation will not be had in this hospital room that asks Himawari about how she returned back to the village even though she fought that monster or something along those lines. At which point, the fact that Boruto saved Himawari will be revealed to not only Team 10, but also Ino and Sakura. And Ino, upon hearing that Boruto saved Himawari, the person who saved Inojin, will probably decide to pass some information along to Team 10. And if she doesn't, she will very much at least consider it. She does pass that information along, possibly through something like a mind transmission link, therefore Ada won't be able to hear her give this information to Team 10. That information will also fall into the lap of Sakura, whose return raises so many questions, it's legit insane. Because here's my thing, Sakura just being in Konoha and just working at the hospital is basically the craziest thing she could have been doing.
Nick, what do you mean? That's a profession. Why would she leave it?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe the fact that one of her best friends was killed by a child he supposedly took in, and then that child abandoned the village, becoming a rogue ninja, and oh, her husband went along with him. And well, yeah, there's no way that Sakura thinks that Sasuke is an actual rogue ninja, and there's no way she gave up on him. It's kind of wild that she didn't even go to look for Sasuke. Like, yeah, she's used to Sasuke not being around, but not as a rogue ninja. When you tie that into the fact that Sarada has been kicking down Shikamaru's door basically every day of the time skip and yelling at him about omnipotence, I simply cannot even imagine what the inside of the Haruno Uchiha house looks like. If Sarada is spending every day yelling at Shikamaru about how omnipotence has switched Kawaki and Boruto's positions, can you imagine the conversations she's been having with Sakura? Sakura, the character who the explanation of omnipotence would massively make sense to, considering the fact that her husband abandoned the village to go with the child who supposedly killed Naruto, Sasuke's best friend. While obviously the narrative being pushed by Konoha is that Sasuke's reverted back to evil, something that Sakura would never believe he would do in the first place. Now, obviously the thing to say here is, well, that's not how omnipotence works, to which I rebut by saying, yeah, but it kind of is though. See, we know that omnipotence gets stronger the longer you're under its effects, right? And therefore, one of the major reasons that Sarada was able to break Sasuke out of omnipotence was the fact that she got access to him immediately after it hit him. But like, where do you think she went after Sasuke ran off after Boruto? Do you think it was home, maybe? Which means that Sarada was probably peddling the idea of omnipotence to Sakura, what, 10 hours after she was affected by it? at the latest. And then Sarada repeatedly slammed that idea into Sakura's head over the course of the next 3 years. And you're telling me that there's not even a slight chance that Sakura was probably at one point like, oh, you know, maybe I'll listen to my daughter like my husband did. Because even though omnipotence would switch Kawaki and Boruto's positions, that doesn't mean that what Sarada would tell Sakura about Sasuke going with Boruto because he believed what she was saying was false. Sakura would have every reason to believe that Sasuke followed after Boruto because of what Sarada did. And therefore, if Sakura wanted to have even the remotest equal amount of trust in their child as Sasuke did, she would have to believe in what Sarada was telling her. Which means, for all intents and purposes, unless Ikimoto is as dedicated to destroying Sakura's character as Kishimoto was, that Sakura should be, at the very least, slightly Team Boruto. And therefore, Sakura's in as interesting a position as Ino is, as Himawari is sitting there with a child she healed using the power of Kurama, and the only reason she gets to sit there and watch Inojin be okay is because Boruto saved her. And therefore, there is 5 people sitting in this room over Inojin's unconscious body that are all linked in some way or another to Boruto and the fact that he may not be as bad a guy as everyone's saying. And thus, while individually, not all of these people might have had the opportunity to be snapped out of omnipotence, all of them being in the same room and all having 50% of the reason to not believe the memories in their head should be able to work collaboratively together to use their power to break out of omnipotence. And why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they doubt the memories they had? If Boruto did truly kill Naruto and Hinata, why would he save Himawari? If he was working with Code, why did he show up to Konoha to fight Code? If he's a bad guy, why is Shikamaru actively working with him? If he's so evil, why did Sasuke run away with him for 2 years, rebranding himself as a rogue ninja? Every single person in the room gathered around Inojin has a reason to doubt the memories in their heads. And while the rules of omnipotence are somewhat hazy, it seems that anybody with a fair amount of intelligence and enough reason to doubt the memories in their head can snap themselves out of it. They just need to be told. See, Kashin Koji was able to snap himself out of omnipotence because he knew that there was a fair chance that omnipotence would happen in the future using the 10 paths. Amado may or may not have been able to snap himself out of omnipotence by seeing his handiwork that he knows he did to Kawaki on Kawaki, but it's supposed to be Boruto. You get it. And Shikamaru was able to snap himself out of omnipotence, 1, because of what Sarada was always yelling at him, and 2, because he heard Amado doubt his own memories. Right now, as it currently stands, everybody standing around Inojin's unconscious body has a reason to doubt their memories. But Inojin is the only person who's heard about omnipotence and how it works. Therefore, she could act as the catalyst for not only Shikadai, Chocho, and Himawari, but also Sakura, which would place almost every single notable and named Naruto character on Team Boruto, outside of the elders, Konohamaru and Kawaki. But that's an interesting and precarious situation for the village to be in. I mean, yeah, you just have Sarada and Sumire in the village, then alright, that's just spies. But if Mitsuki, Sarada, Sumire, Sakura, Himawari, Shikadai, Chocho, and maybe even Inojin when he wakes up, all break out of omnipotence, we got a real problem plot-wise. See, because if everybody slowly but surely starts coming out as Team Boruto, then the importance of omnipotence really begins to wane. Like, yeah, it's cool that it happened, and yeah, it galvanized the time skip, but if just 14 chapters into part 2, basically everybody important outside of Konohamaru decides, you know what? No, this Boruto guy's a pretty good guy, it makes the firing of omnipotence feel kind of cheap. However, it does have the added plot importance, though, of making Kawaki feel cornered. Something that Shikamaru and now Ino are actively trying to avoid. And therefore, there's an argument to be made that Ino, who's trying to actively not share the information about omnipotence to people to create a stir, won't tell everybody in the hospital room about omnipotence. But at the same time, if she does, we could see the moment where Boruto and Kawaki are facing off against each other a little bit sooner than we anticipated. See, because if the 5 people in this hospital room do truly switch to Team Boruto, and real pressure outside of the likes of Delta and Konohamaru starts getting placed on Kawaki, and that moment in time, he would see Konoha as the enemy in his struggle to defeat all Otsutsuki. And if Konoha was going to stop him from trying to destroy Boruto and the rest of the remaining vestiges of Otsutsuki DNA on Earth, well then Konoha, at least those he identifies as traitors, would be between Kawaki and what he believes is a safe future for Naruto. And therefore, while this one page might seem like not a whole lot is happening, the possible repercussions of what could happen from these 5 people cohabitating spaces with the information that each and every single one of them has could lead to the very unraveling of Konoha, which could very well be the reason that they decided to leak this specific page, as this specific page could be the beginning of the end. And if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will. But I'm curious to hear from you guys. Do you believe that Ino's gonna share the information she has with the people that are in Inojin's hospital room? Or do you think she's gonna try and keep it to herself to keep Omnipotence as quiet as possible? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Now I have to go pour over some interns' resumes to see who I'm hiring.